focus. Ideate, innovate, enable. HOSMAC presents Hospital Engineering Summit 2023 in association with CNBC TV18.
Step into the world of healthcare innovation as we delve into the 4th edition of the Hospital Engineering Summit, hosted by HOSMAC in Mumbai. This year's summit revolves around the theme of sustainable hospital design, where experts from various fields converge to explore solutions for creating enduringly eco-friendly healthcare spaces. Unlocking the potential of green buildings, Deepa Sathiraman from EN3 Sustainable Solutions addressed a keynote on how sustainable designs impacts health, energy and environment, propelling India towards zero emission by 2070.
I think that overall what we've seen everywhere is everybody talks about this 2-degree temperature rise target globally. We've seen countries in the COP27 sign up for commitments to ensure that they will reduce carbon in such a way that we ensure that by the century, end of the century, we don't have more than a 2-degree raise in temperature than what we started off in the last century. So this is essentially what this means is that we have to reduce almost 41 to 72% lower emissions in carbon than our 2010 baseline. And it's a very big challenge for a country like India as we are actually starting to develop. A lot of these targets have come from the West who have completed their development, and now they're actually pushing pressure on India and other developing countries to say, okay, you have to be more environment conscious, you have to develop in a way that your emissions comes down. And it's no other reason, the fact that as a country, if we don't start looking at sustainability and low carbon design, construction and maintenance, it's only going to impact us. Zero carbon and sustainability, a big chunk of that comes under energy. And how we manage our energy, both at the design and operation phase, becomes very critical.
The event continued with a panel discussion on going beyond patient centricity with human-centered hospital design, moderated by architect Prasanna Vategaonkar, Associate Director, Design Services, HOSMAC, with esteemed panelist Dr. Santosh Shetty, architect Prithi Pendhakar, Dr. Tina Mehta, and Sudeep Kolte.
Our esteemed panelists bring diverse expertise to the table, and together we'll explore how innovative design principles can create healing environment that cater the needs of patients, families, caregivers, hospital providers, and the community at large. To begin with, let us discuss the concept of human-centered hospital design. Dr. Santosh, could you share your perspective on why this approach is critical in improving patient outcomes?
So whether it is design, whether it is air conditioning, whether it is the lighting, the acoustics, all of these things have had an impact on patient outcomes.
Architect Preeti, your architecture work often emphasizes biophilic design. How does that design philosophy contribute to human-centered hospital environment?
Even small moves can make a difference. Either a physical contact with nature or even sensory perception of natural elements. So incorporating natural materials, providing artwork that depict nature, or even providing a simple window that looks outside and gives views to nature. This can be done both indoors as well as outdoors in rural settings, urban settings, or semi-urban settings.
Moving further, Dr. Tina, as you are closely associated with patient and caregiver, your perspective is invaluable. Could you share how hospital design influences your experience and what you believe needs to be prioritized?
So our early intervention center is designed in such a way that as soon as the patient enters, the patient doesn't enter through the normal hospital entrance. There's a separate entrance. The entrance itself is beautified in the form of a fair. Secondly, when he comes, of course, on the first floor for the waiting area is nicely prepared, and there are animals going on excursion. Then he can take a selfie point at a nice hot air balloon ride, And so he's very, very happy. Plus, what we have tried to give is that all the pediatric super specialists, everything is given under one roof, including psychologists and behavior therapy.
It's a wonderful experience at Srimat Rajchandra Hospital at Dharampur. What ma'am has explained about the DEIC area, which was designed by us. Amazing experience we had that day. Thank you, ma'am. Moving further, Mr. Sudip, why is acoustics is critical consideration in patient-centered design?
When we are designing spaces, are we looking at where can these people be sitting? Where can they be using the washrooms? What kind of charging stations they can have, given the fact that mobiles today are kind of indispensable in day in life. So when we tie up the entire experience, if you have an irritated guy who's not cleaning your washroom, your patient care is going to be definitely suboptimized. So how do we really tie it into a singular thread? Make sure that the experience becomes seamless. And of course, we have enough studies, again, from acoustics perspective, which prove what kind of impact it has on sleep, length of stay in a kind of hospitalized environment. So all these are kind of correlated in a sense, and that's what we work towards from our solutions, both in terms of material products as well as in terms of our designs.
Additionally, the event featured a panel discussion titled Energy Conservation Through Architectural Design, moderated by architect Nandini Bajaj from HOSMAC. Esteemed panelists including Professor Surya Kanani, Rahul Kadri, and Mr. Tulsi Nathan delved into pioneering strategies for achieving energy efficiency through architectural innovation. Here are the key takeaways.
In collaboration HOSMAC some years ago, it was found that hospitals spent about 500 to 600 rupees per bed per day, which itself underscores the need for conserving energy in a hospital building. It is understood that money saved is money earned, and hence where we will lead from such results will be perhaps not really the start point, but the continuity of maintaining and establishing good conservation practices for architecture and buildings. Coming from a background of personal practice and architectural experience teaching at CEPT, how can one imbibe sustainability philosophy in young architects?
So the last 15 to 20 years, we're also now talking about material. We're talking about energy, largely, whether it is embodied or whether it is active. So these are discussions that are now beginning to happen amongst the faculties as well as students, because the students themselves are also pretty aware given the issues that are already being talked about in the public domain. So in the largest sense, yes, there is a change in the kind of discussions that are happening. We started with a 150 bed, which then went into, it's now become a 350 bed order hospital. And it's been from a heart hospital, it's become a multi-speciality.
Mr. Tulsinathan, can you enumerate some of the features that helped you achieve this accreditation?
We have introduced, this green building concept just during the design stage itself, actually. And we also introduced the green building consultant again during the planning stage itself. So, we've gone with a huge amount of natural light, also for the natural landscape arrangement, and also we've gone for the huge amount of isolation rooms. It is almost more than 10% of the entire room quantity. And eco-friendly braced, refrigerant incorporated chillers and entire package units we have used in our hospitals. And in the terrace area, the reflective based tiles were used. So these are things we have introduced during the initial stage itself so that it was easy for us to get this rating.
Welcome back to the 4th edition of Hospital Engineering Summit, hosted by HOSMAC. Moving ahead, on the event day, it brought together various stakeholders from diverse sectors: hospital owners, CXOs, planners, architects, engineers, and consultants. The event also had delegates in crafting new and enhanced healthcare facilities. Later on, The global trends in healthcare project implementation was addressed by Nityanand Natarajan, Joint General Manager and Head, Health Business Initiatives, L&T Construction.
This is a topic, basically what we are doing is, since L&T and myself, I take care of hospital business, we have been traditionally doing maybe 2.5 decades before item rate projects, but then we moved ourselves into the design and build projects of hospitals. Since we do these kind of projects, we have to keep always abreast of the latest technologies which is happening in the engineering, procurement, as well as execution part. So this is how we plan when we get a project, the methodology part, how we start executing it in terms of barricading the site, in terms of providing the logistic facilities inside the site. Now this is the excavation part. And then the cores are here in RC, so RC cores have to be taken up first, even though it's a steel building. So RC cores will run parallelly 2 levels above the steel structure. So you can see the steel columns coming in. They are taken from a different site, prefabricated there and moved here through trucks, taken and erected, riveted, and then the other columns come on top, they get welded up. And then the slab comes in picture, composite slab with a little mesh and then the concrete on top. The secondary and primary beams in picture. For services also, we are planning some of the, in the basement, we are planning railings and how these things are going to be taken inside. So all these things are planned. This is the utility block where you have all the sumps and your fire pumps located. On the ground floor and first floor, you have the chillers and cooling towers. This is how the facade is getting completed. We install a monorail at the top and then start finishing your profiles. Basically everything is cladded here, as I said. So using systems, curtain walls and the cladding at the sides. So all these are granite claddings which are planned here. And that's how it gets completed. With all the external services done and the landscape complete. Thank you.
One of the panel topics of the summit was maintaining optimal indoor air quality in hospitals. Samir Mehta, Director, Projects at HOSMAC, and the discussion moderator shared intriguing insights and data before the panel commenced.
It's estimated that there were about 17 lakh healthcare infections that occurred, leading to 99,000 deaths. Now this is data pertaining to US and for the year 2009. NIH, which is National Institute of Health, estimates that the direct cost, annual cost of treating hospital-acquired infections in the US would be anywhere between US 28.4 billion to 45 billion, which means in our currency it would be 2.3 trillion to 3.6 trillion, numbers that don't even make sense to us. If this is the state of affairs in a developed country with stringent controls and regulations, and that accounts for 5%, US accounts for about 5% of the world population, it will be important for us to wake up to the impact of lapses in safety of the balanced 95% population in the world. Not all nosocomial infection arises from air quality, I agree, but considering we are at least 4 times the population of US and with controls and compliances which are far less than what you would see in developed countries, it doesn't take a lot to figure what would be the cost and the toll in India. We can choose to turn a blind eye, ye to hota hai, or we can choose to make a difference.
Up next was Arjun Gupta, co-founder and CEO of Smart Joules, who shared his insights on revolutionizing energy conservation in hospitals, which lead to discover how their innovation transforms healthcare facilities into energy-efficient powerhouses.
So, a little bit a story about HVAC systems in hospitals. What do we want and what do we actually get? So, first thing about quality. We all want comfort for all occupants with minimal complaints. But any guesses what is the reality of the day in the hospitals? Too hot or too cold. We already heard this from morning till evening today. Multiple daily complaints. If you look at complaint register of any hospital, it's full of multiple entries every single day. So this is the reality. In terms of reliability, we want consistent performance, but our equipment fail without warning. This happens all the time. We want quick issue identification and troubleshooting and resolution when something goes wrong. But what happens? Half the time we don't even know that there is an issue until it becomes a complaint and some doctor calls the engineering staff and starts saying, what the hell is wrong with my system, right? In terms of cost, we want lowest possible cost of cooling. Here there are three elements of cost when we look at cooling: CapEx, O&M, and energy. We usually end up with very high CapEx. We have very low operation and maintenance costs, but we have extremely high energy costs. First is that we are focusing on the wrong thing. That's why we are in a mess. Why do I say this? We always look at CapEx. Whenever we are building our hospitals, we look at CapEx. This is the order of priority. More than 80% of our attention is going on CapEx. Okay, maybe around 10% on O&M, and maybe around 10% on energy. And I think this is also exaggerated. It's probably 95% CapEx. But if you look at, why are we focusing on CapEx? To reduce cost. But if you look at cost, if I take only cost of cooling, 80% or more of the cost of cooling over 10 to 15 year life of a cooling system is not CapEx, it's energy cost. So we are focusing on the wrong thing when we are talking about minimizing CapEx. That's one reason why we are in a mess. There is value to be made for everybody, whether it is OEMs or consultants or contractors or facility management companies, all from eliminating waste. So if you're OEM, you can increase your percentage of high value products. Right now you're selling fixed speed chillers that cost 25 lakh. You can sell VFD chiller which cost 35 lakhs. Increase your sales. That's all. Thank you so much for all your attention. Enjoyed it.
Dr. Vivek Desai, founder of HOSMAC, focused on sustainable hospital design and later emphasizes the need to curb energy consumption for a greener, cost-effective healthcare future, on which enthusiastic participation reflected shared commitment.
Let me begin, from the administration side of it, that nuts and bolts of MEP maintenance. We generally do not give it that kind of an importance that is required. Everyone feels why, you have to spend that kind of time and energy into doing this. In the morning, Mr. Anand Padmanabhan spoke about hyper-automation. There was a little bit touch there. Then there was sustainability, and what just was explained to you in a rapid-fire 25 minutes, you must have realized how important it is, to spend that money. Earlier, we used to outsource this service, and we used to deal with some of the top consultants, today's AECOM or SKM, SK Murthy, Mr. Murthy, because quality, is topmost in our minds. But we started to realize that, most consulting firms do many other buildings. So healthcare being so intricate and so complex, that whatever he said, BTU of mall coming into hospital starts happening because, you're not used to do such a complex engineering. And then we decided, that we will do this on our own. And if I look back 8 years now, 10 years, I think I am satisfied because we understand this now much, much better. May not be as good as what Arjun demonstrated here, still a learning curve probably, but that helps. And it's not only about the design alone, the design parameters are okay, but after that, when you implement it, coordination becomes another major problem. And, people like L&T would realize that, when you execute, it is a pain, right?
So as a MEP designer, being from the maintenance background, execution background, I always consider the proper MEP spaces, which will consider all these, accommodating all these, especially maneuvering for the maintenance activities, rigging activities. Especially when, as a MEP engineer, I especially considered on the MEP shafts. We can always see that architect or whoever the MEP designer will always try to give a lesser shaft because owner wants to save their carpet area and compromise with the services. So this is one of the factors that there is no spaces available inside the shafts. The risers are running, people cannot enter, they cannot even do the welding, they cannot even, rotate the spanner. So just installing a riser is not enough. So sufficient space for MEP shafts are very important.
The summit concluded with some remarkable knowledge exchange and bonds formed among the attendees, which holds the promise of catalyzing transformative shifts in hospital designs with continuing the dialogue, igniting sustainable innovation together for the best optimization solutions for hospitals across the globe, which can make healthcare and hospitals efficient in the long run.
HOSMAC presents Hospital Engineering Summit 2023 in association with CNBC TV18. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.